talking about it. Let's move forward on it, Monica, because it was frustrating if you're rooting for the Nets to watch Kevin Durant. He struggled, obviously, on Sunday, but he also they were swarming him. They were bodying him like crazy, and it didn't look like the Nets made any obvious adjustment, at least to me. So give me the one thing the Nets can do that will make it different tonight to give KD an opportunity to be much more impactful.
Well, I think the thing with the Celtics is they switched so aggressively and they crowded KD. I wondered if there was more space and opportunity for Patty Mills as a floor spacer. Sometimes you would see Bruce Brown around KD, and because he's not as much of a threat from three, the spacing was easy. It was easier for the Celtics to collapse. So I just wonder if there's some space on the floor for Patty Mills, a guy that shoots the three at a higher percentage, just to create some room and some alleviation for KD.
Coach, help me. You're the coach, Seth. So you give me how we are going to make sure they can't do to Kevin Durant what they did to him on Sunday.
You got to move him in the action. You can't put him in one spot or just pin down. They're playing above him. They're playing into his body. He's got to create space so that he can use his length, use his ability to attack a closeout. How do you do that? You move him off of the basketball. You move him off screens, but not down screens, more along the baseline. You open up floors, back cut someone, have him come behind, so now he's moving and catching the ball on the move. Let's face it, you can't guard Kevin Durant when he's catching it on the move. Can't guard the dude, so you can't put him in one place. Too easy to defend, too easy to shrink the court, too easy to play into his body.
Monica, I remember when I first got drafted, I went out to a nightclub, and I went to the club, and they took me to the VIP table.
Boy.
I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it. Me and my friends were doing it.
Okay.
And then I look up, I'm like, damn, I'm not that's the real. Why am I down here? Why am I not up there? Who's up there? I want to be up there. I feel like that's where Jason Tatum is right now.
Okay.
Jason Tatum's looking at Kevin Durant. He's looking at Giannis. He's looking at all these great Steph Curry. He's like, I need to be up on that upper layer of VIP. He got his first head. I mean, he literally got the first win, made the game-winning bucket. I think there's a battle right now. Who is the best player in the world type of battle? KD kind of got blitzed a little bit game one. I'm curious to see who KD is in game two against the physicality of Jalen Brown, Grant Williams, and Jason Tatum.
He's going to have a huge
I'm curious.
He's going to.
But if he doesn't, like, where would you guys be? What happens if they actually game plan again and they're physical with him again and he doesn't have the same performance?
I don't know.
What if? I'm just asking.
Okay,
like,
if Ime Udoka should absolutely be a finalist for Coach of the Year, if that absolutely happens. And listen, I'm not taking anything away from the Celtics defense. I do think, to your point, KD is still a guy.
Yes, he is. He's up there, yes.
So he's going to respond. But it behooves the rest of that team. Like, him responding is not a solely KD thing. What's my man, Steve Nash? You listening to what Coach Seth just said? Like, there's more to it than just KD responding.
I agree. And Bruce Brown.
We'll see if
Given headline material.
Steve Nash has super quickly, Seth, who wins tonight? Game 2, Nets Celtics. Who you like?
I think the Nets are going to win. They've got to understand they've got to move him in the action. They can't keep him so still. And then I think other guys got to step up, not just Kyrie, but other guys got to step up. But that defensive game plan for the Celtics, man, that was good.
I misspoke. It's tomorrow night, of course, but this question remains. Who wins?
I think the Nets respond. I think if it was a close game without KD playing well, I think they respond.
Yeah, 6 turnovers to KD, that's not his thing.
We'll see. If only because we'd like to see that one go 7. We'll see if they can do it. Jay, Will, thank you. Back on KJM Radio in a moment. In the meantime, coming up here, star wide receivers across the league are demanding new deals. Could all of this lead to another flurry of major trades in the NFL? Diana's got the answer next. You're watching Get Up on ESPN.
ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
And Jay Will makes his way across the hall from KJM for a good conversation here on Get Up. Let's get to it. Jay Will, Warriors handled the Nuggets last night. They're up 2-0, and they look great. What are you seeing?
I see that Jordan Poole has expanded the championship window of the Warriors for another 5 years. That's what I see. Jordan Poole, 28th pick in the draft, dropping 25 points. I mean, the way he's playing.
This man said 5.
It extends the window, does it not?
It does, but 5? Woo. Okay.
5's a long window for guys at that age, but it's hard to argue at least that it extends it into this June because they've looked very good. Jay Will, Mavs even up their series with the Jazz. Jalen Brunson had 41.
This is what worries you about Utah. They're just underwhelming. Like, you're losing a game without Luka Doncic, and you know that Jalen Brunson's a good player, but you have Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, you have all the pieces. What is wrong in Utah?
I don't know, but I have Stephen A. in my ear yelling, he should come to the Knicks. Donovan Mitchell should come to the Knicks. And then we got the Sixers, red hot now through 2 games. They look great. Last night was Embiid's night.
I mean, look, Joel Embiid, when he has 19 points in the first quarter, they play aggressive. Tyrese Maxey getting points in transition. This is when Philly's at their best. Toronto is depleted, but you have to win the games that are in front of you.
All right, so if you're just joining us, Jay Will is here. You saw Monica and our Uncle Seth, no relation. Seth Greenberg is with us as well. And let's stop down and get into this a little bit. Embiid and Harden, Jay Will. We began this postseason with them as the biggest question mark. We said the other day, if Allen Iverson was the answer, James Harden is the question. Well, through 2 games, have they erased that?
This is the championship version of James Harden that we need to see. People always revert back to where he was in Houston when he was a volume scorer, a volume shooter. Right now, he's not as efficient as you would like for him to be. 3-point line field goals, he could be better. But him being a pass first, kick the ball ahead, a hockey assist type of guard, playing through Joel Embiid, playing through Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris in transition, and taking over games when you need him to in spurts. That is the right version of James Harden that can win a championship, not the one that you remember 3 years ago.
That's interesting, Monica, because we sit here and we count. He didn't have 37 last night, so he didn't play well. Do you agree with that take?
I do agree that I'm not alarmed because 20 assists through 2 ball games is impressive, and they have not needed him. I am concerned as you run into a team that is not depleted and hangs their hat on the defensive end. You are going to need a guy that can just go get you a bucket, and I'm not sure that what we're seeing from Maxey is sustainable at a 30-point-per-game clip.
Well, so let me get Seth in as well. Seth, so that's an interesting one. You brought up the specter of Miami's defense. And again, if everything holds, that would be the next matchup for the Sixers. Will they need Harden to have more explosion on the offensive side? I mean that almost literally, like to go into the 30s in order to beat that team.
They need the threat of Harden to be able to do that. And you talk about Max, you talk about Tobias Harris. Why are they benefiting? Because you know what? The game is easier when Harden has the basketball. So, yeah, he's going to need to score a little bit more. But when he has the ball, there are 6 eyes on him. When he has the ball, all of a sudden your defensive game plan is to keep him out of the lane. When you're keeping him out of the lane, you're helping. When you're helping, now all of a sudden the ball's kicked to Max. He's got an open 3 or driving a closeout. All of a sudden it's kicked to Tobias Harris. All of a sudden there's more space you can post it to Joel Embiid. So, yes, he has to score a little bit more, but I agree with Jay Will. This version of Harden, because you still have to game plan for that 30-point outburst, so you've got to shrink the court some when he has it, is a dangerous version. But Miami Heat, those dudes are just different defensively.
Different.
So we'll see if they get that far. We're still at least a week away from that. A quick take on the Warriors. I want to make sure we get to the Nets and Celtics, which I know it's only one game, but it feels like the best series. But as far as the Warriors are concerned, you just said, I'd like you to expand on the thought. Poole makes this Warriors team a championship team. The addition of him, as good as he looks at this moment, you're saying he makes them a championship team.
Klay Thompson is able to kind of find his groove. Doesn't feel it relieves pressure on him. Draymond is just doing Draymond things. And here's what I heard him say the other night, Greeny, I really like about Jordan Poole. He's starting now in place of Steph Curry. He's like, I just want to make impact. Yeah. It wasn't about starting, not starting. It was about making impact. He can do that with his handling ability and his shooting ability.
Well, it's interesting because we were doing Countdown over the weekend, and Jalen and Stephen A. and I were talking about this, Monica, that the thing about Poole is, because Steph won't come off the bench, obviously, for much longer, but he can play for Steph and he can play for Klay. Yeah. So he can spell either one of them, and you don't lose as much as you normally would.
That is a perfect observation, but at this point, the teams that are left playing have stars, right? And so the question has been, who is the support guy that is going to blossom? And Poole has been able to do that. What I think is unique about Poole is that the support, the actual stars around him, are not going to go away. They are established in the playoffs, and so he is free just to go, as you said, Jay, and make an impact without having to think a ton because the system and the framework is well established for the Golden State Warriors.
Seth, is it sustainable? Does this team now look like the biggest threat in the West to a Suns team that has been the best team in the league all year?
Without a doubt, and not even close, because of their style of play. They play differently than everyone else. They have floor gamers all over the floor. They make you match up with them. You see what's happening with Denver. Look, Jokic is an MVP, but you know what? He's basically neutralized because of this lineup. Shot makers, floor gamers, space the floor, swarm defensively, create easy offense. No doubt about it. They're the best passing and cutting team in the NBA, and they don't just rely on ball screens. They rely on ball and people movement. They are a hard team to prepare for and a tough matchup because of this smaller lineup.
I will just add, though, Uncle Seth, should they run into the Memphis Grizzlies?
Yeah.
I do think that there's some symmetry there in terms of how they will be able to match up in a budding rivalry in terms of a team that can move quickly as well, can defend, and might have some answers in terms of the size for the small ball line.
They knocked them out of the play-in tournament last year, but I do need to see them control and handle their stuff against Minnesota tonight.
I was about to say Anthony Edwards and
Minnesota.
Karl Anthony Towns might have a different idea. That looks like it has the makings of a great series, but there's been nothing so far like Game 1.